You are free or enslaved by your own design. A little background: for the past few years I struggled with what I believe to be addiction to porn and or masturbation, and so what I say comes from experience and is mostly from the perspective of my own judgment, introspection, and reflection. While this post itself is from my own formulation, I do not take sole credit. Everything I'm about to say is heavily influenced by a great deal of various sources, and to each is given their credit respectively. I make no claim this is an original idea, only my own expression of what I understand. To clarify a couple of things before I begin, when I say you, I mean it generically, and it is not targeted towards you personally. Take the meaning as a whole and apply it as necessary, but if any individual part does not apply to you, simply disregard it. The next point is that when I speak of benefit, or benefits, I mean them as they are defined, and not the colloquial term so often used in subreddits such as this. A final clarification: when I say PMO I do not mean it in the context of an addiction, a problem, or any other such thing. I mean it only as a shorthand form of the action of consuming either porn or masturbation, or both. The problem for most people, myself included, is that we've created a problem out of nothing, having turned a simple decision into its own force to be feared, dreaded, and worked against. To view PMO as an addiction or a problem of its own nature is an error and is detrimental to us stopping these behaviors. To treat it as such is to absolve ourselves of complete responsibility, and instead begin to externalize the true nature of things, thus leading to our own victimization and helplessness. Evidence for my claims is such: think about all of the posts you've read, or the times you've thought of it yourself, any thoughts such as these that follow. Maybe Nofap can cure me, maybe my addiction is the reason for my problems and in quitting it I will be cured. If I stay on a long enough streak, I'll start seeing these benefits that will motivate me to stay free of PMO. I haven't seen any benefits yet. Maybe Nofap isn't actually working. What can I do to get around strict abstinence? Can I still watch porn but not masturbate? Does that still count for a streak? I've relapsed now, the benefits and streak are lost. Why not just binge for a while before trying again? All of those thoughts, and any other similar to them, stem from treating PMO as anything more than a decision to do an action, or not. We can only control our thoughts and intentions, our will, our mind. However you best wish to phrase it. All else is external to us, and out of our control. Our ability, our own will to make a decision, cannot be taken from us. But if we refuse to accept this responsibility, then we must begin externalizing and demonizing our problems, which are in reality just the consequences of our actions. There is no addiction, there is no problem here. Everyone who still habitually practices PMO despite wishing otherwise, is simply unaware of the true nature of things, or is actively denying responsibility for their own actions. I do not mean addiction as in a physical dependency, but rather the way the term is used in communities such as this, to present our own actions as a sort of external force. When you're in a scenario that you'd typically choose PMO in, this is where the focus should be, and nowhere else. There is nothing more than the decision to PMO, or not to. You may argue that there are urges, hormones, dopamine rushes, etc. and that those are the cause for relapsing, right? No, those things exist, but they are external to our will. And externals cannot take away or interfere with our will, so the decision is still entirely up to us. Anything else is simply an excuse, something to place blame on. If you feel as though you are resisting something, or debating with yourself, then you've gone astray again. What's really happening is a lack of conviction. You understand the pleasure that comes from PMO without a doubt, but without a convincing reason not to PMO, then you will always eventually choose to PMO, or have pointless conflict up until the final decision. You must establish why you don't want to PMO, before you ever try not to. This reason must be personal and unfailable, a reason that you can hold resolutely to without a doubt. Something that matters more to you than the pleasure gained from PMO. This is the true path to freedom. The alternative is to absolve yourself of responsibility, to instead demonize PMO as an external event forced onto you. And then seek rescue in unreliable externals, in the false hope of such things as the so-called streak benefits, like attraction, confidence, liked more in social events, etc. None of those things are in your control, and to rely on them is your own downfall, for if they ever falter, then so does your resolve to not PMO. Now, whenever you are tempted to PMO, disregard emotion, bodily urges, and any other fancies of delusion. Objectively view it as simply a decision, the decision based upon your own reason. You can either act in accordance towards your reason or decide against it. But the decision is this alone and entirely up to you. Herein lies your freedom. Simply decide in your intent what decision to make, and then disregard all other feelings or temptations that may try to dissuade you from your choice. They are external and cannot change what you decide unless you let them. In short, there is no magic cure. The answer is decide not to PMO. Thank you for taking the time to read this. I hope it will give you a better understanding of things for when it comes time to make such decisions. I know that I have brought things that be disagreed upon, and others that I've perhaps poorly articulated. So in that, I encourage you to ask, discuss, or criticize any and all of what I've written here. I will do my best to better explain anything that is asked. I wish all of you the best, and hope that you found your freedom today if you've not already found it. TLDR. Separate your decision-making and reasoning, your will, from externals, such as bodily feelings, hormones, brain chemicals, etc. Figure out why you want to not PMO. This has to be something that matters more than the pleasure from PMO. When you feel tempted, recognize that these are externals to your will, and instead objectively view this as only a decision, either to PMO or not. Decide based on your reason, then disregard any external forces that will try to sway. Hold steadfast to the fact that your will and decision is unchangeable by anything else but you, and that you are not your body's impulses. You are free now. Whether you decide to PMO or not, you are free in your decision to do so if you recognize this fact. If you wish to no longer PMO, simply stop. There is nothing but your own intent that can change that.